everybody, and welcome to an Animation Mentor online lecture. I'm going to be talking today about animating timing and spacing to make your animation feel more textured, more interesting, more stylized. So the basic premise, I think, of timing and spacing can go all the way back to the fundamentals of animation, the bouncing ball. So here's a couple of video reference examples of two different bouncing balls. And if you think about the bouncing ball, right, it just hits the ground, and usually the spacing is speeding up, right? So you have less frames, less drawings, if you want to call it, going down. And as it accelerates up into the air, accelerates off the ground, it slows down and the spacing slows down. So there's more frames, more drawings of more poses of it in the same amount of time as it reaches hang time, right? So you have a fast, slower, 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 slowest, speeding up, speeding up, speeding up, fast, hits the ground again, right? This kind of cadence. Boom, hang, boom, hang. Now, if you think about what you would do to caricature that, well, you would just exaggerate that. So you could have it, like popcorn kernel, boom, almost frozen in the air, boom, frozen in the air, boom, right? So that's caricature in its essence, like taking things and speeding up and slowing down time, right? And you can do this with your video reference. Obviously, you can do it by moving keys around in Maya. There's lots of great examples. The more cartoony the animation is, the more the animators tend to do this kind of thing. You have the snappy transitions into the holds. That's like the extreme version of it. So like if I was just gonna, say point at someone, right? You can just have a character do an anticipation and then, point and maybe have an overshoot or an ease in. But if you're going to caricature that even more, you would have more frames here, and then less frames in the transition, maybe even just a smear frame, an overshoot, and then it would bounce back. So instead of just something like this, hey, look at that, it would be more like, poof, like, poof, right? So that's scaling time, basically, is what we're talking about here. This is a great example from Tom Davies, who was an animator I worked with for a while at Sony, from Hotel Transylvania 2. And he's doing this awesome dance, but you can see the rhythm of this animation where it has like these slow ins to the holds and then very quick transitions. Tom is quite famous for being known to have really good timing and texture in his animation. And this is obviously a great example of that, which we can talk about more in a bit. My name is Jason Martinsen. You can find out more about my work at jmartinsen.com/projects. Here is a list of all my recent movies over the last few years. I've been in the industry since 2002, and I've worked on VFX, feature film, and quite a few video games as well. So if you're interested, check it out. If you click on any of these links, it will bring you to the reel of the movie that I worked on. Hope you enjoy that. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is block out this shot. I have this video reference in the top right that I've matched out, and I've actually retimed this video reference. So if I select this video reference, you can see here in the graph editor how there's some changes in speed. And if I undo these changes and you watch the image of the reference here, this is the actual timing, slightly sped up actually, of my action, jump and fireball, which I thought would be good to show something with texture and timing. But if you undo this change, you can see what I've done here is I've actually sped up some parts. So like in this case, I sped up the jump in the air and I slowed down the hang time. So you can see time is literally going slower. And then I sped up the landing. And then the same thing happens here. I've slowed down the anticipation, sped up the actual release, and then the rest is in normal time. So that's a fun thing to do with your video reference if you do bring it in as an image sequence or a movie file. You can retime it to make it feel more or less how you want. And then basically, I just blocked out the character and adjusted some of the poses slightly based on her design to match more or less what I have in the reference. So that's the first step, right? You get your blocking feeling more or less right. And after that, we're going to go into spline. All right, so I've splined out this shot of Stella, and you know the timing of it is closer to my original reference. It's not exactly the same, but it's very similar to this reference that I've already retimed to get a little bit more texture based off of what I thought would be cool instead of reality. And I've added the actual fireball. So this is animated in such a way that now you could use it in a film or you know, for your shot or whatever. And it's animated with timing that's more naturalistic, right? Like there is not any crazy transition, like super fast transitions going on. Everything is fairly. This could work in a VFX Marvel film or you know, a Pixar film that's more naturalistic, right? This type of animation feels like it's grounded in the real world more or less. It's not, I wouldn't say it's necessarily super even. There's obviously some texture in here. You know, there is more frames down here. There's a little bit more timing at the bottom here. The transition here is pretty fast. There's a lot of hang time going on. You can see her head is kind of sticking there. Her body's kind of sticking there. Maybe even more so than would happen in real life. But there is no frames where it's just like smearing like crazy. There is no stuff where it almost holds. So the time dilation, the time scaling, adding that texture we're talking about is more minimal. This is a more naturalistic take on this movement. Okay? So we can talk about what we would do now to push that. All right, so here's the next step. Now I've actually taken away the reference because I don't want to work on the reference anymore. I want to work off of what I would think would be a nice feeling to stylize this animation more. Now we can go further than this, but this is kind of a nice happy zone where it can work in slightly, you know, more stylized film, Pixar Disney type of film. Also could work in a more stylized like Spider-Verse world, although this is not on 2s, this is on 1s. You can convert this to 2s and play with the 1s here and there and talk about that as well. But basically what you can see here is everything has a bit more crispness, right? I've held some of the stuff longer. You know, just a simple example is the hang time of her jump. In the previous version, the jump looked more like this, right? So this is a nice up hang time and down. But as you can see, by moving keys around, what I've done is shot the character up there and almost held there. You know, it's moving through these curves here, but I've almost held it and then shot it back down. So I've spent a little more time sculpting out the timing, and I've held this pose up here, right? It's moving through this pose, but barely. It's kind of holding it. This transition now is faster through here. It holds this bottom a little bit more crisp. The jump up in the air is only in like 2 frames, and we could even push that even more. The hang time, as you can see, holds longer. The legs and the arms are moving a bit. You could tone that down if you wanted, right? You could really hold this pose out. So if I bring this arm out here more and don't have this arm extend as quickly, You can push. I mean, I haven't done anything on the arms from the transition from the more naturalistic one, but you can just do this here. Now you can see this arm isn't moving as much, and then suddenly it's gonna drop. It's gonna kick out on the drop. Boo, 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 right? Which needs a little bit of work here. I'm gonna keep it back. Keep it up there longer. And then just have it drop quite quickly. 1, 2, you know. Could even drop it faster if we wanted. And same with the other arm. The other arm here kicks out to this side. Boom. You could keep it up there a little longer if you wanted. And then just drop it very quickly to the next position. Right? So that's probably going to work better. Yeah, that feels better because we're playing with time. So now we've slowed down those arm movements so they stay in that held pose range longer, right? And then, of course, the next moment is this antic. This is holding a little bit longer. Maybe we could even push it so it's holding longer. Bring this frame back a little bit, right? I'm using the Alt and arrow keys to nudge her position around. So as she comes back here, I'm going to hold her back a little longer and rotate her back so she doesn't pop forward as quickly. So it's really keeping her body back there. And we could probably drag the neck. And just have it drag backwards on the moment of release. So now what happens is this transition is a lot quicker through these middle frames, and I can push this forward as well. Really lead so it gets there almost in one frame, right? So it's back there and now it's in front. The only thing that's trailing is the arms. Now obviously I have to readjust the timing of the fireball because I've changed the timing of the actual attack of it. So there I pushed the release to be even snappier, like really holding it and shooting forward. And then at the end, we hold this pose a lot longer than we did before and come back a little quicker into this last pose, which also is just moving through. So we've scaled time, we've dilated time, right? You can call it sticky animation. That's another term for it. So if you have a character that's like, you know, like touching or rubbing their shoulder, and then they're going to do something else up here, like they're just agitated. You know, you could have the spacing where it kind of drags off, comes through here, is like 7 or 8 frames, reaches here, flattens on the thing. Or you could do that where it's there and it goes in like a smear frame, up, hits, overshoots, and down. You're going to get something more like, and it's just scaling time. More frames here, less frames in between. The overall duration of this shot is exactly the same, but you've played with where you have longer slow motion and where you have faster time in between. So you get, and instead of having everything moving evenly between it, you have a boom, boom, right? Like a rhythm, a texture. This is the fun part of animation, I find, is how far do you go with this? Obviously, you could push it more than this, and it's not going to work. At this point, if you push this more stylized, it's not going to necessarily work for a Pixar film, right, or a VFX film. This is already a little too pushed for, say, a Marvel movie unless this is a superhero that's got like crazy power. You know, Spider-Man can do stuff like this, but you wouldn't do this with like a background character that's more human, like Hawkeye or Black Widow necessarily, right? Because it'll start feeling not real because we pushed it too far. And the more you go, the more it has to actually be stylized and cartoony. Okay, so now I pushed it even a little further. This is now like Spider-Verse. It's on 2s and 3s. So you can see that it's just step keys now. And here you got 2, 3, 3, 2s, a lot of 2s in here. There's 1s on the quick transition. It holds a little bit more. 1s on the quick transition down. 2s, 3s, 2s, 3s, and then again a 1 here for this fast transition. And this gives it even more like of a stylized feel. This is what they've been doing a lot in some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, K-pop, Spider-Verse, and other stuff that you've seen recently. And this, because you're doing it on 2s and 3s, it gets a little more static, you know, staccato feel of basically energy and connectedness, and the spacing is going to be bigger because there's less frames. The spacing between some of the poses are going to be bigger. And you could put this all on 2s, but then some of the fast movement will strobe a bit. So usually in things like Spider-Verse, you'll see if you frame through that on like a lot of the really fast transitions, they use 1s. And if the character is going through a pan, you have to use 1s. Even if you hold the pose, the character has to be moving with the pan and the camera of the background so it doesn't pop around, because you can't have a camera pan or camera movement on 2s or it's really stroby to the eye. So this is generally a 12 frames per second animation. This is a locked off camera, and now the timing feels even more stylized, right? So to clarify this further, here's a few more visual examples of this. This is a sequence from the film 300, and it's using 3 cameras, close, medium, and far. And Zack Snyder basically filmed it at a high speed, high frame rate, like 120 frames a second. And then what he was able to do is take some parts and make it fast, and other parts and make it slow. And there's a few moments in here because it's more or less just kind of cool, arbitrary, fun, like just cinematic stuff. There's a few moments in here where he slows down, because there's a lot of slow-mo, the anticipation, and he speeds up into real time the actual attack. So this move here is an example of stylized animation. Same with here, right? Big anticipation, slow, boom, fast impact. So those are some cool things. This is an animation that was probably motion captured from a cinematic by Blur, I believe, for a Star Wars game. And this is the original. 2 guys clashing a lightsaber. And it's quite short. And I didn't do much to this. I just took it into a video editing program and added some frames on the anticipation and took out some frames on the actual attack, right? So this is the readjust of that. And if you frame through it, basically you'll find that you can see that I've added actual frames here because they freeze, right? Here there's 2 of the same frames. Here there's 2 of the same frames. And then through here you can see the spacing is, there's only like 1, 2, and then the impact. Whereas in the original it was like 5 frames. So if you play this one, you can feel the timing is different. There's like a hold and then a faster, more powerful attack compared to this one, which is the exact same amount of frames, but feels a little bit more smooth, right? So here we have a clip from the movie Troy, and it's with Brad Pitt and Eric Bana fighting. And basically I took some of the fight and just edited it together. And this is all the original timing, right? Really cool stunts, cool attacks, but obviously very naturalistic because it's real people. So I did the same thing and I retimed it by adding and removing frames. So now you can feel, it feels like a little bit more like superheroes, a little more Marvel, right? There's more hang time. Here you can see I've copied and pasted frames, taken out frames on the impacts, and it, you know, it allowed for a more powerful type of feeling. So here is a duplicate frame that I've copied. So this anticipation is holding longer, and then the attack is much faster. Now you can take that to another extent here. Here I've really pushed it a lot, and there's some serious holds and very fast attacks. So it's starting to feel a little cartoony here, which would be great if it was a cartoon, but it doesn't quite work because you can feel it freezes and you can feel the attacks lose a little bit of weight because they're just too fast. Now, if it was more stylized and a cartoon, this would be a great, thing to retime your reference based off of. I really love this clip because if you watch this guy on the right, he gets electrocuted and then does this crazy like bounce. The animator basically scaled time through here. So if you watch what happens is he pops up really quick into hang time and you get about 8 frames, which is a beat in animation, where he's more or less just kind of moving through this hold in the air. So you really read this moment of hang time. And then there's some super fast spacing. Look at the frames here, where he just zips in a smear frame to the ground, does some very quick rolling, and then boom, he pops up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 frames where he's almost again just going through a moving hold, and then really quick spacing through here, and then pops up again into a moving hold. So when you play this, what he's doing is he's speeding up and slowing down time, and so you read boom, 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 right? You read those 3 movements. So this is an animator that really understands texture and clarity in timing. A lot of the Bruce Timm's Batman animations, Superman animations do a lot of this, and it's really clear to see on these too. You can see Robin, there's a slow-mo moment here. You can see the spacing happening. Look at how much impact is there, a lot in those 2 frames. And then the characters are in slow-mo. Now this is on 2s. And then boom, the spacing gets crazy again, right? So you feel this power on the landing. Batman here on his handspring, the same thing. He's coming in really fast, right? Lots of spacing on these frames. Look at the spacing. And then it goes into slow motion, but it doesn't feel like slow motion because you get out of it quickly. It just feels like a clear beat. Same thing here. It's quite obvious. He shoots up in the air. Crazy hang time, shoots down in the air. When he hits the ground, you have another moment. Now, here you can see that the pan is on 24 frames a second on 1s, and the poses are on 2s. So what's happening is here the background's moving and the character's moving with the background, but the pose hasn't changed. So this is the trick I was telling you about. Because otherwise, if this character wasn't moving with the background here, he would strobe background, but they just strobe back in space, but they just slide him with the background that's moving, so it feels correct. All right, so there's a really nice hang time on the Joker here. Fast, slow, fast, slow, fast. And then on this run, you have, it's essentially on 2s, right? These are all on 2s. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And it's just crazy keyframes, like crazy pose changes. Batman comes in, same thing. But except for on the landing, you really get to feel this hit. 1, 2, 3. It's slow motion spacing. The spacing here is almost non-existent. And look at the spacing on the next frame. So you get that nice texture. And he shoots off. Coming around the corner, the same exact thing. He comes in with big spacing. And then you hit this pose, and he's moving through that pose. You read it. Fast, slow, fast, right? Here they're doing it on the impacts. Fast, slow, right? So you get this great texture in these animations. Spider-Verse does this all the time. This is just one little clip here. I've grabbed a few clips. But you can see the fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow, right? Like just going into this example here. They're really pushing what's happening in real timing. And here you get a few frames where he's barely moving. Like, this is slow motion here. And then the next frame, look at how much he's moved. So they're scaling time, slow, fast, but it all happens in the same amount of time. Fast, slow, right? If you read this, boom, fast again. This is Tom's demo reel from a while back, and you know, this is the Dracula animation I was telling you about. You can really see this pose because he's moving through it with a lot of frames, and then there's a quick transition. You can really see this pose, and then a quick transition, really see this hang time. So it's fast, slow, fast. So it hits this pose, and it's just moving for a few frames through it. Fast, slow, right? All through this. It's really great. Hang time, quick transition, hang time, quick transition. He's scaling up time, and he's doing lots of little polishy things with the arms and the feet and the head and the fingers overlapping, but the core of the body is like going through a slow, quick transition, slow, quick transition. And this is stylized animation because of that. You know, it's really great to see this in animations that's on twos, right? This is some tests done by one of the animators at DreamWorks for Bad Guys, and this is a great example of that kind of stuff. You really see the timing where he holds the poses, and a lot of times he does actually just hold the pose. This is a drawing, and then he has quick, crazy, fast stuff happening in between those holds. So this kind of stuff, this is all on YouTube. You can study if you want and frame through and see what's happening. It's really great stuff. There's the roughs. Yeah, I mean, look at this hold here, right? It's just frozen. This is the test I did rotoscoping from an anime, and this is just to see the difference between twos and ones. That these are on twos, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. These are all on twos. It's the same exact timing as this. This is just all on ones, right? So you can see you can feel the difference subtly between ones and twos. How the and I mean, it's arbitrary which one you feel like is better, but some people prefer the twos, some people prefer the ones. It feels a little crisper, right? It feels a little snappier, even though the timing is identical. And this is a stylized animation with a lot of hang time, right? Scaled time, fast, slow, fast, fast, slow, fast. But the timing is the same. The only difference is one is in ones and one is on twos. These are animations I did for a project a few years ago for a Prince of Persia cinematic. And this project was all done on twos, inspired by things like Spider-Verse. And, you know, this is a great example of the moving camera. So here this character's running through this environment. You can see this pose actually holds. He hasn't moved in his animation pose, but he's moving through the environment because the background's moving, right? So a lot of these, here his foot is connected, but his body pose hasn't changed, right? So here his body pose is the same, but he's moving forward with the camera, so you don't feel him strobing around. So this is the trick that they use in Spider-Verse for all these cool moving cameras. And this shot is mostly on twos, but there is a lot of ones. So I'm framing through here. So all these animations here, they really wanted to capture that like snappy, stylized, texturized timing. And if you go through a few examples, you know, like here, I really held this pose so you could read this anticipation. So quickly into it, hold it in slow motion, and then boom, look at the spacing as you come out of it. It's just a smear. So you get, right, fast, slow, fast. And then the landing, the same thing. He rolls into this screen. He's really moving fast. Look at the spacing on these frames. You know, even though it's still on twos a lot of times, he hits the pose quickly with lots of spacing, and then it's just almost into slow motion, right? The only thing that's moving is just a little bit of his overlapping action and his arm, like just very subtly, just like the example we saw in the Batman clip. So you feel texture, right? And the same thing on the swipe. He's holding this pose, and boom, you just go right through into the, with big spacing into the final pose, and then here, barely moving. See? He's barely moving through that. Just a little bit of overlap in the arms, reading that pose. So you get hold, move, hold. Same thing on these, a nice long antic, big smear. Same thing here, you really play with this is all on twos, right? But you really play with this compression, so you read the down and then boom, smear as he goes off screen. All this is on twos, same thing here, dropping into the frame, fast, accelerating time, hits the ground, you let that pose read, and then quick transition, like just in 2 frames. And this is on a 1, right? So here's a case where you would use a 1. Twos, he's sliding in the same pose towards camera. 1, and then twos again. The only thing that's moving between these frames is the effects, the overlap of his sash and the smoke. And then he hits this pose and small movements. So this type of stuff just gives you really nice energy. You know, K-pop and Ninja Turtles, they're on twos as well. And they're both great examples of this kind of stuff. If you want to frame through the trailer online, you can on YouTube. The clip I took from Ninja Turtles, both of these are taken from YouTube. You know, you can feel the great fast, slow, and all these moments. They're super dramatic, very stylized. And the fact that their poses are pushed and their face expressions are pushed, and it's on twos and ones, of course, on the fast movements. It just makes it feel like really textured, high energy, doesn't feel even. You feel this great amount of like polish going on, even though the animation is only on twos for the most part. It's beautiful work. So we can look at some examples here. So they're moving camera again. They hold the pose. Boom, the spacing will go really fast on the transitions, holding this pose, and then you can see if you watch some of the stuff I've drawn on here on the hand, it's barely moving, right? And it's not just the hand. Look at the foot as well. The foot and the hand, both the body itself, and then suddenly, boom, you get a crazy fast. So this is slow motion, fast motion, right? Boom, 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 spacing, slow motion again. Here, the same thing. Watch that hand, and then it just moves fast and then slows in, right? This is a great super smear, pops in the air, and then you have this moment of hang time, just like that clip from Bolt where the guy's getting rolled on the highway. It's just moving, and this is actually on ones, but it's not moving a lot in screen space. It's staying in there, and then suddenly it just accelerates forward, right? And same with the background character, or the characters in the bottom. They have some crazy spacing happening, but you really read this antic because it's holding those 2 frames here, and then boom, fast. They even slowed down the impact here so you could read her face. I love this. Like, look at this antic. Spacing is not very much, and then pop. Look at the distance she goes up in 1 frame, and then just a cushion. So it's an ease in to this pose, so you read it. She's barely moving in, so this is great spacing. Same thing on the bow. Just an ease out, and then poof, hits it. Nothing is even. This is the best thing about this kind of stuff. When you have twos, you can really exaggerate the unevenness of the animation. Here, slow out, pop, forward, slow in, ease in, right? Same thing here. You can see her arms coming up. This is kind of a held pose a little bit, going slow, boom, everything goes fast, and then slows down. They even have smear frames, multiples, right? So there's the smear frame, then it slows in. Sticky animation, you could call it as well. Ease out, bam, smear frame. And all that's happening here, really, besides this held pose, is a little vibration and overlap. Look at this change, how crazy the spacing changes in this frame. And then the next frame, barely any, but it's still moving. And then, boom, the next frame, really fast. And then you have the overlap, the overshoot. Same with these guys' dances, pops. Boom, slow, fast, right? Slow, fast. Slow, hang time, fast. Like, look at the spacing difference between this frame and this frame and this frame and this frame compared to this frame and this frame. Spacing on her arm, slow out. You can see that the drawings I made here, this is the spacing they're using. So that's some good texture, because this is not like this. Same amount of frames. These are all pretty evenly spaced. And here you get this great shoop. Same thing happens there. Slow out, big explosion. Here they do some nice multiples and even bring some extra geo for eyeballs. Really fast transition. Ease in. Same here, multiples. Super fun stuff. Slow motion, fast motion. Slow motion, fast motion. Slow motion, she's almost held. Fast motion, slow motion again. Read that. You read the actions. Boom, boom. It's like you almost just feel what happened and what's about to happen. You never actually feel the transitions. Ninja Turtles is another amazing example of this. I love this stuff in this clip. It's so cool. So just to pick on a few of the clips here, look at this ease out, you know, frozen moving through the pose. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames, and then quick transition, huge spacing changes, hits the next pose slow, slow, slow. So you have slow, fast, slow, and you really feel those two poses. Right? Same exact thing here, just with another character. You know, all this stuff here. Look at the spacing on Leonardo as he comes forward. It's crazy. Now I know it's on 2, so you can push the spacing more, but then when he hits this moment, now the spacing has diminished considerably. The spacing he's moving here to here and here to here is a lot less than it was from here to here. So you feel this hit, and then boom, fast again. Hit slow, 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 slow motion, fast motion. Slow motion, slow motion, fast motion, slow motion, fast motion, slow motion, right? You're just scaling time around. It's beautiful animation by this animator all through this. Look at this hang time. It's just amazing. It's like literally locked on screen space, and the pose is beautiful. Look at this antic. You get a few frames of that, and then boom, crazy pose change. I love this transition between Leonardo and Donatello. Slow back, boom, fast forward, right? Look at this. Hits up. Look at the spacing between these. Boom, boom, and then slow, fast. Leonardo again. Big uppercut. Getting a nice antic here. Fast, slow, slow, fast, slow. And again, he's going really quick, hits this pose, you read it, transition, spacing is crazy, you hold this, slow, fast. Raphael slowing out, watch his elbow, pulling, 3 different poses where it's barely moving, and then kaboom, overshoot. Well, it's not an overshoot, ease out, back into slow motion. So all this stuff, you know, it's on 2s, they're pushing the timing. To me, is just some of the most fun you can have in animation. Beautiful work, and I hope it inspired you to add some more fun spacing and timing into your animation.